The strongest argument anybody can make is one that is built entirely on their adversary's position. Viva Frei, Montreal litigator turned YouTuber, and for those of you who've been hanging around the channel for long enough, you probably realize that I'm sitting in the passenger side of my home office, and that is because yesterday I was told that I have something called piriformis, and if you don't know what piriformis is, let me just explain it to you. Piriformis syndrome is a condition in which the piriformis muscle, located in the buttock region, spasms and causes buttock pain. The piriformis muscle can also irritate the nearby sciatic nerve and cause pain, numbness, and tingling along the back of the leg and into the foot, similar to sciatic pain. For your TMI of the day, I have been having all of those symptoms, so my osteopath told me I should try sitting in the passenger side and putting my weight on my left buttock cheek, so let's just see how that works today. Alright, so with that said, I didn't think I'd be doing another one of these videos so quickly, but I read an article in the New York Times, and in reading it, it reminded me of a principle of law that the best argument you can ever make for yourself relies entirely and only on your adversary's position. And I came across another article from the New York Times talking about the existence or non-existence of alleged voter fraud in this election, and I said just reading this, there was enough material in this own expose to confirm that which the headline denies. November 11, 2020, by Jack Nickus. No, Dominion voting machines did not cause widespread voting problems. This is something I've said on Twitter, I think I've said it during live streams, I think I've said it on this channel, but whenever anybody starts a question with no and then proceeds to answer the question, they are putting that no there, not for purposes of emphasizing the truth of that statement, but for the purposes of shaming the person who dared ask the question. Getting hot again, but I can't take off my shirt. That would just be
instant demonetization.
I may be wrong, but just pay attention to this in the future and notice and see if you observe the same thing I do. When anybody starts an answer with no and then proceeds to the affirmation, they're trying to shame you for having asked the question, much like when a kid asks his parents, is my face really going to stay like this if I make this face? And the parents say, no, your face is not going to stay like that. The parent is not saying no to emphasize the truthfulness of the statement. They're saying no to emphasize what a ridiculous question it was in the first place.
No, Toby. And no more questions about whether this is a joke.
Dominion Voting Systems, which makes software that local governments around the nation use to help run their elections, is now at the center of baseless claims that, quote, software glitches, end quote, led to mistakes in vote tallies in Michigan and Georgia last week. Pay close attention to the terminology that is being used here. You are already being told that the allegations are baseless, that there were no software glitches that resulted in errors in the tallies in Michigan and Georgia. By the way, the article concludes the exact opposite. The Dominion software was used in only 2 of the 5 counties that had problems in Michigan and Georgia. And in every instance, there was a detailed explanation for what had happened. In all of the cases, software did not affect the vote counts. Translation, the Dominion software was used in 40% of the problems in Michigan and Georgia, contrary to what was just stated in the previous paragraph. We are then told to believe that in all of those cases, the software did not affect the vote counts, but let's just go ahead and read what they mean by that. In the 2 Michigan counties that had mistakes, the inaccuracies were because of human errors, not software problems, according to the Michigan Department of State, county officials, and election security experts. Only 1 of the 2 Michigan counties used Dominion software. So in at least 1 Michigan county that had problems, they were using the Dominion software, and in the other one, we are told to believe that it was human error and not software error, and wait until they describe what that error was. But first, let's talk about Georgia. Issues in 3 Georgia counties had other explanations. In 1 county,
an apparent problem with Dominion software
delayed officials' reporting of the vote tallies, but did not affect the actual vote count. This really is kind of outlandish. Even according to the New York Times' own article, there were apparent problems with the Dominion software in Georgia, except it only delayed the tallies. It didn't impact the overall vote count, as though delaying the tallies might have an impact on the overall vote count, setting that aside. There's an expression in law that justice delayed is justice denied, and I might be inclined to argue that tallies delayed are potentially tallies denied. We are assured that this now admitted software problem did not affect the overall count, but pardon me for being a little skeptical, even by the New York Times' own admissions. Quote, many of the claims being asserted about Dominion and questionable voting technology is misinformation at best, and in many cases, they're outright disinformation, end quote, said Edward Perez, an election technology expert at the OSET Institute, a nonprofit that studies voting infrastructure. Quote, I'm not aware of any evidence of specific things or defects in Dominion software that would lead one to believe that votes had been recorded or counted incorrectly. Well, Mr. Perez, I might argue that you did not read the last paragraph that we just read, nor did you read this article at all. With that said, let's continue reading this article to see what exactly was the nature of the human error and what was certainly not Dominion software problems.
According to the article itself,
Georgia spent $107 million on 30,000 of the company's machines last year. In some cases, they proved to be headaches in the state's primary election in June, though officials largely attributed the problem to a lack of training for election workers. Dominion did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Not responding for comment when you are in the thick of the most controversial elections in American history is probably not the most strategic move from a PR perspective, but let's get into the alleged human error glitches that occurred in the context of this election. In Antrim County, Michigan, unofficial results initially showed President-elect Joseph R. Biden Jr. beating Mr. Trump by roughly 3,000 votes. But that didn't seem right to the Republican stronghold, so election workers checked again. I'm sorry, I have to open a slight parenthesis because I just can't ignore this, that they are referring to Joe Biden as president-elect, and they are not actually referring to the current president as president. They refer to him as Mr. Trump. That is not the type of subconscious spin I would expect from quality journalism, but whatever. Closing the parentheses, moving on. It turned out that they had configured the Dominion ballot scanners and reporting software with slightly different versions of the ballot, which meant that the votes were counted correctly, but that they were reported incorrectly, state officials said. The correct tallies showed Mr. Trump beat Mr. Biden by roughly 2,500 votes in the county. Can we stop for a moment and truly grasp what it is that the New York Times is trying to get us to swallow right here?
It turned out that they had configured the Dominion ballot scanners and reporting software with slightly different versions of the ballot, which meant that the votes were counted correctly, but that they were reported incorrectly, state officials said.
You serious?
In the beginning of the article, we were told that they were not Dominion software errors, they were human errors. And it turns out that the human error was having configured the scanner and software with the wrong ballot. I don't know about you, but I might be inclined to think that that can be qualified as a software error. We are then assured that the votes were counted correctly but reported incorrectly, in that the 3,000 votes that were attributed to Joe Biden in fact go back to Donald Trump in the amount of 2,500. I've got to tell you something. The votes were not counted properly if they were attributed to the wrong person, period. This is according to New York Times' own investigation. And to break out the meme, but wait, there's more because there's more.
There's more! Hang on to your seat, baby, cause this one's a screamer!
In Oakland County, Michigan, election officials also spotted an error after they first reported the unofficial counts. They realized they had mistakenly counted votes from the city of Rochester Hills, Michigan, twice, according to the Michigan Department of State. The revised tallies showed that an incumbent Republican county commissioner had kept his seat, not lost it. Oakland County used software from a company called Hart Intercivic, not Dominion, though the software was not at fault. They had counted the votes from the city of Rochester Hills twice and actually given the race to the wrong person, and we are being told nothing to see here. Trust us, everything is working fine. No Dominion software problems, nothing, no evidence of nothing.
Believe it.
Both errors, which appeared to go against Republicans, spurred conspiracy theories in conservative corners of the internet. That drew a response from Tina Barton, the Republican clerk in Rochester Hills, Michigan, the city that had its votes briefly counted twice. Quote, "As a Republican, I am disturbed that this is intentionally being mischaracterized to undermine the election process," she said in a video she posted online. Quote, "This was an isolated mistake that was quickly rectified." End quote. A few observations here. When anybody throws out the term conspiracy theory in an attempt to discredit somebody, all they are trying to do is discredit that person as a person without ever having to address their arguments. When there are mistakes that attribute a false winner to an election, it takes a certain degree of audacity to go ahead and blame the people who come to certain conclusions as opposed to addressing the problem itself. The real problem is not the people who might harbor conspiracy theories. The real problem is that you counted votes twice, gave it to the wrong person, and declared the wrong winner. Attacking people for what they believe and the conclusions they come to is a distraction from the actual problem. Which brings me to my second observation, something I've also said on Twitter. When anybody starts a sentence with "as a blank," they are trying to turn this into an identity politics discussion, which distracts from the issue by focusing on the person. The same thing holds true by using terminology like "I am deeply disturbed," "I am offended," "I am shocked." Here's the deal. You made a mistake. Nobody cares about your personal emotions. We are talking about the mistake itself. The way you might feel about other people's reactions to the objective problem of counting votes twice and declaring the wrong person the winner, that really doesn't matter very much at this point in time. And remember earlier in the article when you were assured that there were no problems with Dominion software? Wait until you read this paragraph here. In Georgia's Gwinnett County, the vote was delayed because of an apparent problem with the Dominion software, according to a detailed explanation from county officials.
because of an apparent problem with the Dominion software.
If you were disappointed that the Olympics were canceled this year, don't worry, because you are going to get some world-class mental gymnastics right now. The software properly counted the votes, the county said, but it would not send some tallies to the state's central database. Joe Sorensen, a Gwinnett County spokesman, said that the county has since been able to report the accurate totals to the state, but that it remains unclear what exactly happened with the software. There were no problems with the Dominion software, except there were problems with the Dominion software. It didn't affect the outcome, except it didn't relay the results to the central database. All of this according to the New York Times' own article. And to top off the Olympic quality mental gymnastics that we just saw, the article finishes with some world-class spin. Mr. Perez, the election technology researcher, said it was fair to ask for more transparency and accountability from the companies that make the technology that underpins elections. But there is no evidence of any fraud or widespread errors in the 2020 race. It's reasonable for citizens and politicians to look at the role of private vendors in the machinery of democracy and to ask questions, he said. Now that doesn't mean elections are rigged. Again, pay attention to the terminology being used. Fraud, widespread, rigged. These are all subjective terms that imply something of an intent. It doesn't really matter if it's fraud versus a glitch. It doesn't matter if it's rigged versus a glitch. If the glitch determines a wrong winner, we've got a problem. And even assuming we can come to an adequate, widely accepted definition on what the term widespread means, it doesn't need to be a widespread problem either in order for it to be a real problem. In fact, not only does it not need to be widespread, it can be pinpoint problems. It can be state-specific problems. It can be county-specific problems within specific states. It does not need to be widespread in order to be a problem, and using that term over and over again is a red herring. The ultimate irony is that this New York Times piece, in an attempt to prove that the problem was not widespread and was not software related, in fact builds the most compelling argument that there is in fact a very real problem here, and that it is very serious with potentially very serious consequences. The Times can downplay the risks, they can downplay the actual problems with subjective terminology, but they have laid bare the facts that are at the core of the problem here. They have laid them bare for anybody who is capable of reading through the spin, and I have a feeling we are going to be seeing a lot more issues like this in the future, and a lot more of these allegations in lawsuits that are going to make their way before the courts. Prediction has been made, we'll see where this goes. Sure as sugar, if there are any developments, I will be doing a vlog on it, and with that said, if you like my videos and you like my content, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, drop a comment in the comment section below because it feeds the algorithm. If you want to support the channel, all of these support links are in the pinned comment. We've got PayPal, Patreon, Subscribestar, YouTube membership, Robert Barnes, and I have a community page on locals. It is called vivabarneslaw.locals.com. But more important than any of that, take care of your friends, check in on friends and family, make sure everyone around you is doing well, and now you know your vlog. Peace out. Booyah.